All right, we are now live. This is Robert from the Church of the Basement Dragon Facebook page, and I'm going to be talking today about the subject of atheism and solipsism. Now, if you don't know what solipsism is, it's really the question of reality, questioning whether or not you can trust your senses to give you a realistic picture of what the world actually is like. It's asking the question, are you a brain in a vat and everything is fake? Now, The Matrix was also premised basically on this. You might remember Morpheus asking Neo, if you couldn't wake from your dream and it was realistic, how would you know the difference between the dream and the real world? And then he helps Neo wake up. Well, it's a fair question. And the fact of the matter is that you cannot know that you are not a brain in a vat. Or maybe you are actually a mental patient and you're in a padded cell talking to a shoe, looking at a wall. You cannot know that without absolute certainty that you're not in that state. Of course, there's no reason to. Our senses, generally speaking, are pretty reliable as far as we know. We only have the senses that we have, and they corroborate one another to give us a realistic picture of the world. Now, holding a stick here, you might see all this, I guess, fungus or whatever this is. I think that's moving. I think my stick is moving it, and then I'm moving the stick. As near as I could tell, all my senses are giving me the facts. Now, I think this is in water. If I reach my hand in, I predict that I will feel cold and wet. And lo and behold, cold and wet. So, as far as I can tell, all of my senses have validated the experience that I'm having. Now, a theist, usually a Christian, might assert that because I believe all of my senses are just a product of evolution, biochemical reaction, synapses, and so on and so forth, that I cannot rely on them, or that I should not rely on a brain that is reliant on biochemical behavior and biochemical reactions and the product of, as they like to say, blind random chance, which is a, frankly, in my opinion, a gross oversimplification. Now, what it comes down to really is that they are asserting that anything that doesn't come from God can't be trusted. Well, first of all, how do they know something that comes from God can be trusted? They're stuck in the same world we are, limited to the same senses we are. Now, what I see here is an absolutely beautiful river. It's a little low right now, hasn't rained much, but I can hear the wind in the trees. I can hear the rippling of the waters. And I really want to climb that big tree off in the distance that's hanging over the river. Now, a theist might assert that if all this was simply put here by God and God made everything perfect, then we, of course, can trust our senses. But how the hell could they possibly know that? How do they know that God is truthful? How can they even know that their God is? If they can't demonstrate it in any way at all, even with their senses, how much less can they demonstrate it with their senses? And even if there were a God, they would still be stuck in the exact same position because they can't know that God isn't a liar. I mean, if God existed and was a liar, would he tell us he was a liar? And if he told us he was a liar, could we trust him? The liar's paradox, you might say. And if God lied to people, then he would lie through their senses. So they're stuck in the exact same solipsistic position of not knowing 100%. However, what we can do within the limits of what we have is use sensory and group corroboration. Right here, it's actually quite an interesting rock formation. I kind of wonder what this was. The way it dips right there and there and there. Looks like it was carved or something. If I were to guess, at some point, this was mud and something rolled over it. Maybe there was something else here at the time, and this was diverted over it after this solidified. I don't know. But what we can do as a group is reach down, touch the water, listen to the noise, and confirm each other's senses. That cross-confirmation gives us a shared picture of reality. Could it be that you are actually just one person in a padded room, or brain in a vat, or 21st century Martian child learning about 21st century Earth by living out a 15-minute simulation of an entire human lifetime? All of that is possible, but none of that is demonstrable. There is no line of evidence using thought experiment, but it certainly doesn't present a particular problem for atheism or for atheists. It's not something we have to concern ourselves with, because we are concerned with the possible evidence we have for the world as it is. Wow. I would so love to climb this thing, but I don't have the proper equipment, so no. Choose life. With that understood, did the theists not have this problem? Well, as I just pointed out, they actually do, and it's worth. Okay, so here we go. That's much safer. I hope you appreciate the beauty of the terrain here, as I do. Wish I had brought my walking stick. Now, here we go. All right, so, as I was saying, since the only thing they trust are the things they think came from God, and they cannot demonstrate that their God exists using the things they think came from God, they've automatically invalidated every single one of their senses, and suggested that their God, which is playing hide and go seek better than anyone else I've ever heard of, is a liar, because it's hiding itself from them. So really, they're just taking a problem for themselves and trying to put it upon us. The fact of the matter is that we can demonstrate that evolutionary theory is accurate within the limits of the universe that we have. There are no breaks or breaches, no problems within our perceptions that limit this. Now, that's not to say there are no problems with any sense. However, let's take one example. I will show you. This is, get over here. Okay, I have the stick. I take this. It immediately appears to have bent. Now, did it actually bend? I pull it out, and it's just as straight as it was. I press back in again, and it's bent. Well, my senses is lying to me. I know it's about the water that is bending it. So what's the problem? Well, my senses are inconsistent. They're delivering contradictory data. And that contradiction is actually what allows us to figure out where the problem actually lies. If there is a problem, it is discoverable. Now, you may have heard of the Fata Morgana effect. That's basically a similar problem. It's the way light reacts when it strikes water. It bends in a way that our eyes can't compensate for. One of the most famous examples of that is the city in China that appeared to be floating. A lot of nut jobs went out and said, oh, it's a city in another dimension. No, it's just a trick of the light. And our ability to uncover the flaws and faults in our senses helps us confirm that they are generally reliable. Anything beyond what our shall we say, normal reality is, can be investigated. And as it stands, our senses are good enough for us to survive. And if they were not good enough to help us survive, then we would not have survived. So when you get right down to it, the atheist has an excellent reason and an excellent justification, and no need to even consider the brain in the vat question. On the other hand, the Christian, the theist, who has no means to confirm his senses, has to lie about the fact that he does not trust them, because we know that he does, because he lives according to them. Essentially, they're just throwing problems at a wall and hoping it sticks to us at some point, and saying, see, atheists can't solve this one. Well, yeah, we can. It's not even all that hard. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this little walk and talk. This has been Robert from the Church of the Basement Dragon, and I wish you all a very wonderful day.